Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Language Arts Gallery. Today, we're going to continue learning our academic vocabulary, and we're going to focus on 10 words related to the field of research. So for those of you who are planning to go study at an Anglophone university, such as a university in the US, Canada, the United Kingdom, Australia, or another Anglophone country, you may need to familiarize yourself with these vocabulary words. I've also tried to choose words that I think might be prevalent on your IELTS or your TOEFL exams. So let's get started with our first word. Our first word is thesis. A thesis is a statement that you're attempting to prove. It also refers to a long paper, which is usually written by a graduate student, that is based on personal research and involves answering research questions. It's important to know that in the US, a thesis is written for your master's degree. And when you write your doctoral research, you're writing a dissertation. In many other Anglophone countries, such as Australia, you do a thesis for your doctorate and you do a dissertation for your master's. So it's the other way around. So if I were going to use this to talk about a statement that needs to be proven, I could say, make sure your essay has a thesis statement. Or if I wanted to refer to my graduate research, I could say, I'm writing my thesis on student language learning motivation. Let's go to our next phrase, quantitative research. Quantitative research is most closely associated with the scientific method, and it's based on a deductive approach to reasoning. It involves gathering and testing numeric data in order to test a hypothesis. So if I wanted to use this in a sentence, I could say, I'm gathering survey data and running an independent t-test as part of my quantitative research. Our next word is qualitative. Qualitative research involves non-numeric data, and the aim of qualitative research is to gain a richer understanding of how individuals view the world. So it's based on inductive reasoning. I might say, I'm employing semi-structured interviews in order to gather qualitative data. The next phrase that you'll often hear is gap in the literature. This refers to an area which has not yet been explored in previous research, and it represents a space for you as the researcher to carry out your research in order to fill this gap in the literature. So I might say the lack of research into language learning motivation among displaced peoples from Venezuela represents a gap in the literature. This study attempts to fill that gap. Our next word is validity. And you'll often hear this when you're writing your method section of your research, either your research proposal, your dissertation, or your thesis. Validity refers to how accurately a research instrument measures what it's supposed to measure. So to give you an example of this, if you take your blood pressure at home and then you go to the doctor and you have your blood pressure taken there and the measurement's the same, then the machine that you have at home is providing a valid measure of your blood pressure, right? Because we assume the machine at the doctor's is working the way it's supposed to. So then the machine that we're using at home is providing an accurate measurement. It's a valid measurement. So when you're doing your research, confirmatory factor analysis can be used to determine the validity of a survey instrument. The next word is reliability. Reliability speaks to whether the same results can be replicated over and over again. So going back to our blood pressure example, suppose you take your blood pressure at home and it's much, much higher than when you go to the doctor's office. Clearly, the results of your blood pressure tests are not valid. But if you always get that same incorrect result over and over again, they are in fact reliable. So that machine is producing reliable results. It's giving you the same result over and over again. It's not valid because it's not measuring what it's supposed to, but it is reliable. Chromebox Alpha is a way of testing for reliability. Our next word is significance. When something is significant, it's important. When you write your thesis or your dissertation, you're going to write a section called significance of study. So you're basically going to need to tell your reader why your study is important. What value does it hold? So a good bit of advice here is to go back to your university or your program's goals for graduates. What are you supposed to do as a graduate of this program? Perhaps you're supposed to contribute to leadership in school communities. Perhaps you're supposed to fill a gap in the literature. Perhaps you're supposed to inform best practices in education. So whatever the goals are for that particular university or that particular program, somehow find a way to relate the significance of your study to those goals. The next word is assumptions. All research has assumptions. So assumptions are things that are accepted as true by the researcher and generally by the researcher's peers as well. So you might say that one of your assumptions for this study is that all respondents answered the survey questions honestly. Our next word is limitations. Limitations are the shortcomings of a study, and they often impact how the results are interpreted and whether or not they are generalizable to the general population. No study is perfect. Every study has limitations. So if you're doing a qualitative study, you might say researcher bias is a limitation in this study. And our last word is citations. Citations are where you give credit to your sources. You say where you're getting this information from. So when you're citing prior research, you need to include an in-text citation, and you also need to include a list of references at the end of your paper. Those are 10 academic vocabulary words related to the field of research. So if you'd like to see more videos related to English for academic purposes, academic writing, or academic vocabulary, please remember to like, subscribe, and comment on the video. All right, I will see you in our next video here at the Language Arts Gallery.